frustration everywhere right now, especially because a couple of weeks ago, Gareth, we saw a really good heavyweight showdown between Joyce and Zhilei Zhang, and that was almost the starter. I thought, the main course was to come. We're going to get some really big ones in the summer, and all of a sudden, flat. And the worst thing about it being flat, and I think you said this at the top of the show, none of these guys are spring chickens.
No,
they're all into their mid-30s, late 30s. If Deontay Wilder and Alexander Usyk's case, so they have to happen now. There is no we build it up for another 2 years. No. If it doesn't happen now, it's too late.
Yeah, if it doesn't happen in the next year, it's too late. And there are, I think I've named 7 fights in the heavyweight division. Certainly before Joyce lost to Zhang, as you mentioned, that there were 7 fights out there that if you got 4 of them, you'd be happy.
Yeah.
And they are Fury Usyk, Fury Joshua, Wilder Joshua, and maybe Usyk Wilder. But and you'd have included Joyce and Wilder in that before the defeat to Zhang. Maybe we still want to see that fight. Those fights should all be makeable. They should all be doable, and they should all be doable, like you say, before 2 of those guys hit 40. Joyce, Zhilei Zhang was 40 yesterday or today, I think. It doesn't look. It's not a good look for the sport. It's not a good feel for the sport. It's a very frustrating time. It's frustrating for us, for the fans, and I think probably frustrating for those deeply involved in it, i.e. the promoters and the broadcasters, because these fights need to be made. Because however much you talk about Canelo's progress and how big the fights are with Canelo and how big Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Davis was in the States last week at 1.2 million pay-per-view buys. Somewhere there were reports of 1.5. In the end, I think it was 1.2. Yeah, big numbers. Spoke to Dan Raphael about this the other day, the great American writer. And yes, it was big numbers, but it doesn't resonate in a way across an entire country, across a continent, like the heavyweights do.
Agreed.
These are the biggest men on earth fighting each other.
and
it's
big,
something
big
special. Yeah. It's the warriors of different nations. It's the warriors of different tribes. There's something poetic and romantic about it, as well as it being so visceral. And it holds us up. It's like a roadblock. It's like a bloody roadblock. Let's get that root canal surgery done and get them out there.
Yeah. No, you're right. I was just looking at Alexander Usyk's box rec just to remind myself of in 2017 and 2018 when he was in that World Boxing Super Series. He was so busy. Yeah. 3 fights in 2018, 3 fights in 2017, 1 fight in 2019, 1 fight in 2020, 1 fight in 2021, 1 fight in 2022 for my pound for pound number 1.
I'll tell you why. Because he's earning more money.
That's what it is, isn't it? It's simple, isn't it?
Because he's earning more money. And he's such a likable guy, and the boxing world's behind him. A lot of people, you have him as pound for pound number 1, and I understand that. He's very... I haven't done a pound for pound list for a while, but I think I'd have to really properly consider him. Yeah. Amongst others. But there's a frustration level that almost is at boiling point now. The barometer could not get any higher. And that you just mentioned when he was active, and same with Josh Taylor when he was really active. I'm about to see Josh Taylor this weekend for a program for ESPN. And obviously he's fighting Teofimo Lopez, and that's a great fight in June in the theatre at Madison Square Garden. But he's been out for a year. These guys fought when there were tournaments on. They fought with regularity. It's the same in mixed martial arts. Yeah. Whenever guys talk about being in tournaments, in Bellator, in PFL, they talk about knowing they're going to fight 3 times in a year or 3 times in 7 months, and it really makes a difference to them. Then they can have time off. If they got a tournament together for these heavyweights in Saudi Arabia, it'll be amazing. Because at least they know they're going to fight.
I think what we've seen as well now is a spillover. You mentioned broadcasters not knowing. I think we're now starting to see broadcasters get a bit peeved off Joe Markowski spoke about it. Like AJ fighting in December isn't aligned with what we want, and obviously, DAZN would have spent a lot of money getting AJ as part of the DAZN team. They don't want to, AJ drives subscriptions. That's what he's there for, right? So, put bums on seats as well. AJ fighting in December isn't aligned to their thinking either. They would have sat down with AJ at the start of the year and it would have been, okay, 3 fights. And I get it. Wilder in December's massive. I understand that. But it's now even starting to pee off to broadcasters. They're upset. Not just the fans, us.
Yeah.
But they're like, 1 second, you guys make us a lot of money and you're not fighting.
Well, it's interesting. Joe Markowski saying that. Obviously the CEO of DAZN North America, isn't he, Joe?
Yeah.
I mean, when you hear people like that saying it, then people need to shake a leg. They need to shake a leg within his team. I don't think AJ's got more than 3 fights left.
3, yeah.
And those 3 fights, really, I mean, there is an appetite for the Dillian White fight, I think, on these shores, but he needs to fight Fury and Wilder, and who else really? Maybe Dillian White, but there isn't anyone else out there.
That many, yeah. I think if you're AJ, you're not going to fight one of the up and coming kids. You're not going to fight a Jared Anderson or anything, are you?
Well, but you mentioned Jared Anderson. He was in my mind there. Pretty soon, he's going to be chasing these guys. Pretty soon. That's probably 2 or 3 fights away. The tail end of their careers. Does Tyson Fury actually want to fight anymore? Where's this big announcement that was teased a week ago by him?
Don't see it. I don't see it. And I don't think any of them have the appetite, if I'm brutally honest. But let's hear from a man that probably knows a bit more on this subject. Let's hear from Alex Krasik. You sat down and spoke with him, and you spoke about the Tyson Fury fight as well. Let's hear from him.
Tyson Fury and his representatives, including his lawyer, including his promoter, everyone is complicated. And we would probably fight him earlier, but we need to comply with the rules with WBA and we need to undergo the...
But he also hasn't fought for a year nearly.
Yep, almost. So he has to fight. And Daniel Dubois, everyone thinks he's like a very easy fight. I don't consider this fight to be easy because the most difficult thing in boxing, in fighting, is the preparation.
Yeah.
And for Usyk, there is no difference who he's fighting. Is it Daniel Dubois or Anthony Joshua or Tyson Fury? The training camp remains the same, and most of the power is lost. I mean, most of the force is lost while the kid is in a training camp.
Alex Krasik there, always colourful, always speaks well. To be honest, he sounds frustrated as well. He sounds a bit like, I'm tired of it all. Like everyone seems to be getting upset by this now, and I'm not quite sure how this all plays out. There has been some talk as well. You mentioned Tyson Fury there about Andy Ruiz, Tyson Fury. Any truth in that, Gareth? I mean, I think Frank Warren kind of shut it down a couple of weeks ago, but Frank does that, and then it will be announced in a week. Anything in it?
I really don't know. I thought there was something in it. Obviously, Andy Ruiz has got kind of extraordinary stuff going on as well that involve kind of the courts in the US. Is it a fit? Does it fit for Tyson Fury? Yes, it does, but it's not one that really lights a fire, in my view. I want to see him in with Anthony Joshua
or Alexander Usyk.
Or Alexander Usyk. That's it. I don't want to see him in with. I wouldn't mind seeing him in with Jared Anderson.
Yeah.
I'd see him in with Jared Anderson. I'd see him in with Zhilei Zhang actually as well at the moment.
Big bang.
But I don't know is the answer. I'm getting a cold shoulder on it as well. And if it is happening, if it was happening, has it been affected by the marital case that's going on with Andy Ruiz? That could well be the reason, because I was hearing very strong pieces from everywhere that was the fight for the summer.
You mentioned sort of going through problems in America. Obviously, look, we heard about Deontay Wilder, I believe, got arrested in LA for possession of a concealed weapon. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen there. I think Deontay Wilder tweeted something along the lines of, better to be safe or sorry. I'm just paraphrasing here. I'm not quite sure the exact words of it.
Better to be safe than to be sorry. He did
That was
exactly
what it was,
that.
something along
Exactly
that, isn't
that.
it? Yeah. So
Yeah.
you do wonder what's going to happen there with Deontay Wilder. There's, with the American sort of judicial system, you kind of, it could be anything from $1 fine to 12
Yeah.
years in prison. We just don't know with how it works in America. So look, again, two big names there going through issues outside of the ring. So look, the heavyweight division right now has problems. And we can only hope that those problems get resolved very quickly. Just before we wrap up on this, do you think we do see this? I'm not going to call it a Saudi tournament, but do you think we see any mix of the big four fighting in Saudi at the end of the year, Gareth?
I do, and I've spoken to both Amir Abdullah, the head of boxing at Skills Challenge for Saudi Arabia, for Prince Khalid. Spoken to him in the last week, and I've spoken to Alexander Krasiuk, as you mentioned, and we've heard from him there. And he also said, Krasiuk, that he will fight Daniel Dubois this summer. That's the plan.
Okay.
And then they will move to Saudi later in the year, and they are doing the talks. But as Amir Abdullah told me as well, look, 8 months is a huge time in the heavyweight division, and most of these guys need to fight in the summer anyway. Whether Fury fights in the summer remains to be seen now. Usyk, it looks like, will fight, but maybe Wilder and Joshua will wait till the winter. Yeah, I do think we'll see it. I don't think it'll all be on the same night. I don't know if we'll get a £320 million blockbuster on the same night with 4 different dressing rooms and all of that kind of stuff. But if we do, great. But it's a long way off still, I think.